Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting for the City of Woodbury for May 8th, 2019, here at 7:30 p.m. As is our tradition, would you please rise with me and join us in saying the pledge to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kim, would you do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Date.
Here.
Councilmember Morris.
Here.
Councilmember Santini.
Here.
Mayor Burt.
Here.
Councilmember Scoggins is absent.
Okay, great. We still have a quorum for that, so we're able to conduct tonight's business. I'd just like to welcome everyone who's joined us here in person. Thank you for coming, and for those watching on TV or the internet or whatever you do. I'll just mention too that for people just to know that our website contains the full agenda and all the associated documents, so if anyone ever wants to look for those, please feel free. They're usually posted on the Friday before our meetings. We're going to start with our special order of business. We're going to have a report from the April 10th, 2019 closed session regarding a personnel issue, and Scott Riggs, our city attorney, will comment.
Thank you, Mayor. After a closed session for a performance evaluation, we need to provide a statement and a summary of conclusions pursuant to Minnesota statutes. That statement is as follows. On April 10, 2019, the City Council evaluated the performance of Daniel Wenshaw as a police officer for the city. In accordance with Minnesota open meeting law, the City Council is required to summarize the conclusions of the evaluation of the performance of Mr. Wenshaw reached by the Council at the April 10th, 2019 meeting. The conclusion is as follows. A summary of the conclusions regarding the evaluation reached by the City Council are as follows. Mr. Wenshaw is not able to perform his job as a police officer for the city, and as a result, the City Council approved a resolution that Mr. Wenshaw be removed from employment with the City of Woodbury for non-disciplinary reasons effective April 10th, 2019.
Okay, thank you, Scott. All right, moving on. Next agenda item. We've got 3 proclamations for this week. I will spare you all my reading each of them. I'll just summarize them. So the first one we have is the Peace Officers Memorial Day and Police Week Proclamation. National Police Week, which occurs each year during the week in which May 15th falls, recognizes the service and sacrifice of U.S. law enforcement. It's established by a joint resolution of Congress in 1962. National Police Week pays special attention to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for safety and protection of others. So very much appreciate all that they do. With that, I'll be seeking a motion to adopt that proclamation, and I'll move to adopt the proclamation. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that proclamation is adopted. Our next proclamation is the Emergency Medical Services Week Proclamation. May 19th through 25th is the 45th Annual National Emergency Services Week. In 1973, President Gerald Ford authorized EMS Week to celebrate EMS practitioners and the important work they do in our nation's communities. And I know we in Woodbury have a really fantastic EMS team, so very appreciative of their work and all the work that those people do. So with that, I will make a move that we adopt that resolution.
Second.
All right, let me clarify. Adopt the proclamation. Do you second the proclamation?
I do second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes. Thank you. And our third proclamation is Building Safety Month. The International Code Council, ICC, is a member-focused association dedicated to developing model codes and standards to promote safe, sustainable, affordable structures. It observes May as Building Safety Month. Recognition and support of such a designation illustrates the value and the importance of building code and the role it plays in the safety and economic value of homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our community. Proclamation recognizing May 2019 as Building Safety Month within the City of Woodbury has been prepared for the Council's consideration, and of course that's included in your documents. I would say, Dwight, and your team, you take care of this for the city and appreciate all the work that you and your team do in that area. So with that, I would like to make a motion that we adopt this proclamation for Building Safety Month.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that passes as well. Excellent. All right, next on our agenda is the open forum portion of the meeting. The open forum is a portion of the council meeting where a maximum of 3 persons will be allowed to address the council on subjects which are not part of the meeting agenda. Persons wishing to speak must complete a sign-up sheet prior to the start of the meeting. Those should be on your chair or out back somewhere. Give the sign-up sheet to any staff person or specifically Kim, that's helpful. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes each. The council will listen attentively to comments, but in most instances will not respond at the meeting. Typically, replies to the concerns expressed will be made via letter or phone call within a week. And I know we've got a couple sign-ups, but this is for a later document, later issue, so is any, no others. Okay, so we'll move on from there and go on to the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion and an affirmative vote by roll call of the majority of the members present. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the items will be removed from the consent agenda and considered a separate subject of discussion by the council. So with that, do we have any items that are being removed or asked to be removed?
I'd like to remove item H.
Item H, so item H, okay. Item H then will be removed and moved to a later section in the meeting. Any other requests? Okay, hearing none then, I'd like to,
And Mayor, item H is related to the tobacco sales license.
I should say that, okay. Yes, thank you. Yeah, specifically, item H is the approval of request for tobacco sales license, Southgate Tobacco at 10150 Hudson Road, Suite 107. So that will be, again, that will be moved to later in the meeting. So regarding the rest of the consent agenda items, do I have a motion to accept those?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda, A through I, with the exception of H.
I'll second.
Okay, hearing a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Kim, can you do the roll call?
Councilmember Date? Aye. Councilmember Morris?
Aye.
Councilmember Santini?
Aye.
Mayor Burt?
Aye. And that passes. Thank you. Okay. We are now going to be moving into the public hearing portion. Item 7A is the adoption of special assessments for the 2019 roadway rehabilitation project, Bailey Frontage Road. And Chris Hartzell with engineering, I believe you're going to be sharing some information on that.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I will be presenting on the assessment hearing for the Bailey Frontage Road project. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to present the proposed assessments, hold the assessment hearing, accept any written objections at this time, close the hearing, and consider adoption of the assessment roll. And if adopted, the city will need to amend the 2019 budget for the project. There's been a number of opportunities for the public to provide input on this process, including 2 neighborhood open house meetings, the public improvement hearing that was scheduled in late October of last year, along with a number of individual private property owner meetings. This project was originally scoped as part of the 2019 road rehabilitation project. In coordination with Washington County, the Bailey Frontage Road project was combined with the Bailey Road Access Management project for the sake of construction efficiencies. The project is bounded by Salem Drive on the west, Bailey Road to the south, and Dorchester Drive to the east. The existing access to the frontage road will be aligned with Salem Drive West and Dorchester Drive with dedicated left turn lanes to provide increased safety at the intersections. The existing access to the frontage road will be aligned with dedicated left turn lanes that will provide safety in addition to the pavement, which will be resurfaced with spot utility repairs and stormwater and drainage improvements. 3 single-family properties along with Presswood Golf Course are proposed to be assessed for the project in accordance with the city's adopted roadway financing policy. The assessed amount ranges from approximately $13,000 to $15,000. The assessed amounts for this project are higher than other properties in the 2019 roadway rehabilitation areas. Based on the city's policy, the assessed amount is based on the lesser of either the calculated amount, in accordance with the policy, or the appraised special benefit for the properties. So essentially, the scope of the project combined with the size, number, and configuration of the benefiting properties means that these properties receive a higher special benefit as compared with smaller residential lots in the rest of the road rehab areas. The total city share of the cost is approximately $699,840, of which 7.9% or $55,200 is funded through special assessments. If the council is to adopt the assessment roll tonight, there's a 30-day no interest payment period. The remaining balance of any unpaid assessments can be made over 15 years. The first payment would be on their 2020 property taxes. There is a 4% interest rate that's based on the estimated interest rate on the bond sale plus issuance costs. A deferral program is available for folks that meet certain eligibility requirements. Construction has tentatively been scheduled for the week of May 28th. Initially, traffic will be shifted to the north while construction is occurring on the south. The road will largely remain open to traffic during construction with minor closures due to utility crossings. For the most up-to-date information, check out the city's website by following the link in the presentation. At this time, staff recommends the council hold the assessment hearing and adopt and certify the assessment roll and amend the budget. Do you have any questions? Nope.
I feel like you explained that fairly well, Chris, but just, a lot of the other, let's just use an example. Some of the other assessments occurring in Meadowbrook area or Marsh Creek area are, the dollars are different, certainly. And so the difference here is just that there is more roadway that needs to be done with fewer homes, basically, and thus the cost will be higher.
So, Your Honor, members of the council, essentially most of the road rehab areas, you're looking at lot sizes that are significantly smaller. Most of the lots out here are anywhere between 2.5 to 4 acres, and there's only 3 lots. Where you take the cost of the realignment of the frontage road and you divide that up and assess it to each of the benefiting properties according with the assessment policy. The assessment rate would be much higher than what the special benefit amount is compared for these properties. So if we distribute it based on the assessment policy, these folks would be overcharged relative to what the special benefit that they receive as part of the project. And so that's why it's the lesser of that amount.
And how is that calculated?
So the city hires an independent appraiser that specializes in special benefit. They review the properties, the configuration, everything that's going on, and they do an appraisal on the property relative to the increase due to the roadway construction and other benefits they received with drainage and those type of improvements.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful. Okay, so we'll open the hearing for any public comments on this. Do you need, would you need a green sheet, Kim?
Please.
Do you have a green sheet filled out? And then hand that to Kim? Thank you. And if you could just step up to Mike and state your name and your address.
My name is Steve Hensler, 9586 Bailey Road. So I'm one of those 3 residents that the Bailey Road Improvement Project affects. And so first of all, thank you for your time. My wife and I are not here to object to the assessment. We do think that we understand that there's some money involved and it's fair. What we want to talk about is the appraised benefit that our property gets. Our driveway is going to be moved and it's going to be elongated by probably 250 feet to 300 feet. So it's going to be 3 times the size of the driveway it is right now. And talking about the appraised special benefit, we understand the way we believe we understand it is that the Minnesota statute states that the assessment should be equal to or greater the value of the assessment. What the Bailey improvement does to our property is it infringes upon the privacy. Like the gentleman had said, all the lots on this street are large lots and they're very, very private lots. And now we're talking about having trees removed, having Bailey Road come closer to our property. And so what we're really asking for is we're kind of making a public comment here and maybe in the future having the city of Woodbury help us. I've talked to Tony at the city and asked if he could plant some trees that would regain some of the privacy, and he declined that. He said that he could not do that. But he did refer me to Washington County, and I did talk to a Washington County engineer, and they understand what we're saying as far as we don't know if this is going to improve our property. Like a street in a neighborhood could improve a property. This could decrease the value of our home because if people start seeing it from Bailey Road, it becomes less private and therefore the value is less. So I think the thing that we're asking for is that Washington County has told us, and the engineer has said he said it verbally but not written. He said that, what I'm talking about is at my expense, could I plant some trees, could I do some maintenance, could I do some landscaping that would regain the privacy, should we lose the privacy based on what the engineers are coming up with. And they said it doesn't seem outside of the realm of possibility, but we would have to submit a plan for permit and things like that. So these are things that we are very, very unfamiliar with. So I guess the comment is that I wanted to make sure that it was publicly known that we are concerned about the privacy of our property, and that in the future, if we need some help, can we come back to the city of Woodbury, can you come back to the engineering department and help us say, this is a reasonable thing based on our experience as engineers, as city council members. This is a reasonable thing to ask the county to allow us to pay for ourselves to regain the property privacy that we currently have.
Thank you,
Okay?
Mr. Hensler.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to bring a pencil. It'll take you a
No,
second.
not a problem.
Mayor, this is Mike McLaren.
And your address, please.
The address that I'm talking about is the other property in the middle of these three,
And it is. can you just-
9380 Bailey Road.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Our comments are similar. We're not objecting to the assessment. We're not sure we understand it, but we've been told it's fair, so we'll trust you on that one, I guess. In the middle, what's going to change for us is, as you know, on the far end is Prestwick's equipment shed. And they're good neighbors, but during the summer months, there's quite a bit of traffic that parks along those roads. Now, that doesn't interfere with our property per se, because you see they enter from the far left side. So what's going to happen, as you can see, that all that traffic will now enter from the front, or I should say the middle, and it'll go in front of our property to get to their property. And there is quite a bit of traffic now. And we're pleasantly isolated, so to speak, because the traffic on both sides of us stays on both sides of us. And so we don't get hardly any traffic in front of our house. So what we're asking is the same thing that Mr. Hensler's asking, is that if it becomes trafficy, would we be able to come back to the city and ask for some help with tree planting in front of the property as well? And because I think we have the same concern that maybe it's not really helping the value of the property because of the increased traffic flow in front of the house, because now we have almost none. So that would be what my comment would be.
Oh, and just for clarification, I believe I heard Dr. Hensler say that they wouldn't be asking for any contribution by the city to make those adjustments or improvements in terms of trees and all, but just the ability to be able to do it with the authorization.
Our concern is to have, first of all, to have the ability, and if there's a situation where the city can assist us in that endeavor, we would ask for that assistance as well.
Okay, just so I understand. Dr. Hensler, you want to?
I have asked for and I've been declined. So if the city council would find it in their hearts to plant 5 pine trees that Tony said no to, I would certainly not object to that. But I have asked and I've been told no.
Can you pull up Google Earth?
Maybe.
Maybe? I'm trying to over here too.
Can I give some questions related to that, Steve, now that you're looking at it, or you're just trying to?
I was just trying to put, I mean, I drive by it every day, but I'm just trying to put,
Tony,
did you have?
Chris, I think you wanted to, were you going to say something or have comments to add based on what we just heard?
Yeah, Your Honor, members of the council, the issue is not that we wouldn't like to plant trees, and we understand their concerns. This is all within the county road right-of-way. We don't own any of this property, and so it's really a matter of jurisdictional control. And we will facilitate as many conversations as we can with the Washington County, but at the end of the day, it's up to them whether they would like to permit trees within their road right-of-way. And when they say it's at your risk, if, for instance, the county needed to do something out there, some maintenance to the ditch line, any other types of operations, those trees would be removed at the owner's cost.
Close the hearing and then
Yeah.
I have some questions.
Okay. If we have no further comment from the public, then I would like to close the hearing at this time.
I'll move to close the hearing.
Second?
Do we need to do
We need a
that?
second.
Yeah, we got a second. And
Okay.
all in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the hearing is, the open hearing is, the hearing's closed.
Could you pull that back up real quick?
Yep.
So the question I have of the trees that are being removed, are those in the between Bailey and the frontage road? Those are the trees that are being removed, or are we taking trees from the front of the property on the frontage road?
Your Honor, members of the council, I believe it's the trees that are between the frontage road and the properties.
We're not seeing that on our screen. Are you able to pull that back up again? It might be on yours, it's not on ours.
Is that working?
But it's not the, did you want to go back to the?
Yeah, so
Okay,
you're
there we
talking
go.
about south of the road, but between, well, south of the road and north of the road in
Here.
the no man's land.
Yep. Some of these trees in here will be removed for stormwater infiltration. I don't know if I can.
Okay, so it's just that portion between Bailey Road and what's the other, that's called the frontage road. We have two Bailey Roads. Is one, with the northern road, is that considered a frontage road, or it's also called Bailey Road?
That's correct. And I think we're referring to it as the Bailey Road, frontage road.
Frontage, okay. So are any trees being removed on the north side of the frontage road?
Your Honor, members of the council, I believe so, but only on city-county property.
Okay.
As far as I know, there is no private property impacts.
Okay.
And has staff had conversation with the county at all about replacing from what they're taking, or has there been any conversation about that?
Your Honor, members of the council, I know Tony's had a number of conversations with Don Tyson and the other project managers over at Washington County, and they're definitely considering it, which is, in my experience, unusual from a county perspective, because adding trees within their right-of-way only adds risk and liability to a county. So just based on the strength of our relationship with Washington County and how Washington County is, they're actually considering it, and so we'll just continue to facilitate those conversations.
Any other comments or discussions from the? I think your explanation to me makes sense. I think we're all at risk of trees being removed within that right-of-way area. We all hope that they don't. I know I've got a bunch of trees on my right-of-way, and I hope they never get removed, but there's always that concern that when we do our own plantings there, or ones that might have been naturally growing, that if it's within the right-of-way, there's risk. So the fact that some of these might be going, I can understand. I don't know if it makes sense that we would pay to add them back, but I do appreciate that. I think if there's ongoing conversation and the homeowner wants to do that and that can be permitted and allowed, I think that makes sense to me.
And I would just add to that, contacting your county commissioner as well, which I think is Lisa White, I think over here on this side of things would, because it's a county county-led project would also help facilitate things, and I'd more than happy to get an introduction, communicate with Lisa on behalf. So I would suggest that because it's a county-led project. Yeah.
If there's no further discussion, I would seek a motion for this adoption of this special assessment.
I'll move to adopt Resolution 1969, a resolution approving the special assessments for the 2019 roadway rehabilitation project, Bailey Frontage Road.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Kim, this is simple majority, right? Okay. So, all in favor?
No, you'll need to take a roll call
No,
still.
take a vote.
It's okay.
See the 50-50 chance.
All right, can you do the roll call, please?
I will.
for that?
Councilmember Morris?
Aye.
Councilmember Santini?
Aye.
Councilmember Date?
Aye.
Mayor Burt?
Aye. All right, so that adoption has been passed, and thank you for coming to share your thoughts and comments. I hope that not many trees are taken and that you end up having a beautiful new road. It all works out for you. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 7B, the adoption of the special assessment for Bailey Road Access Management Project. And Chris, I think you have some comments on this as well?
Yeah, Your Honor, members of the council, this is really just the other side of the coin. It's the assessment hearing for the County State Aid Highway 18, also known as Bailey Road Access Management Project that's being led by the county. So the information I'm presenting is very similar to the last presentation, with the exception that this project is totally managed by the county, and a separate public improvement hearing was held in early February of this year. The scope of this project is just one of 3 priority projects for Bailey Road between Newport and Woodbury that improves safety, capacity, and operation. This segment includes widening to the south and restriping the roadway to provide dedicated left turn lanes at intersections between Pioneer Drive and Wellington Lane. The project also includes trail replacement on the north side of the road, pavement resurfacing, and stormwater quality improvements. There are 3 benefiting properties to the south of Bailey Road. Per the assessment policy, the properties are outside the metropolitan urban service area and are assessed based on the city's fee schedule rather than the adopted financing policy. The assessment amount ranges from $3,700 for the smaller lot size for one of the residential properties and the church, and up to $12,400 for the large undeveloped residential lot. The total city share of the cost is approximately $968,900, of which 2% or $19,800 is funded through special assessments. If the council was to adopt the assessment roll tonight, there's a 30-day no interest payment period. The remaining balance of any unpaid payments can be made over 15 years. The first payment would be on their 2020 property taxes, and there is a 4% interest rate that's based on the estimated interest rate for the bonds plus issuance cost. Again, a deferral program is available for folks that meet certain eligibility requirements. Construction has tentatively been scheduled for the week of May 28th. For the most up-to-date information, check out the county's website by following the link in the presentation. At this time, staff recommends the council hold the assessment hearing and adopt and certify the assessment roll and amend the budget. Do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time, but we'll open up the hearing if there's any public comment on this. We would need a green sheet handed to Kim. Seeing none, I close the hearing. Council members, any comment or questions?
I'll move to close.
Oh, I'm sorry. I move to close the hearing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Okay, motion is, the hearing is closed. Now, council members, comments or questions, further discussion?
I've done.
This is not the first time that this project has come across us, so I think we're all pretty familiar with it at this point. No questions.
Awesome.
Let me just because I can't not have a question. So is there grading changes between these two now that I finally got Google Earth to load? So there's a pretty significant topography difference between Bailey Frontage and Bailey Road. Is there going to be a change? Are they leveling that, or are they remaining to circle back a little bit to the homeowners that were just here?
So there are some significant challenges with grade, and that's why you see the connections are lined up with the north and south crossing roads.
Yep.
But there's substantial curves and grades in order to make up the difference and bring it to a presentable grade.
So is there a plan to change that? Because it looks right now that the frontage road is elevated, which would help shield shield is the
Block.
thank you. Yep.
Road noise or what have you.
Yeah, is that going to change as part of this?
Your Honor, members of the council, the frontage road might change grades a little bit, but I don't think they're going to change drastically. It's where the connection to the cross streets, that's why there's such a curve. It makes up some of that grade in between Bailey Road and the frontage road. There won't be any grade changes, significant grade changes on County Road 18, Bailey Road.
If no one else has questions, I'll move to adopt Resolution 1970, a resolution approving the special assessments for the Bailey Road Access Management Project.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Kim, can you do the roll?
Councilmember Santini? Aye. Councilmember Date? Aye. Councilmember Morse?
Aye.
Mayor Burt?
Aye. So that resolution has been adopted. Okay, now on to 7C. This is County State Highway 18 Bailey Road Access Management Project and the 2019 Road Rehabilitation Bailey Frontage Road Budget Amendment. So this does not need a public hearing, is that right? Okay, do you have any further comments? This is just the combination of these two.
Yeah, Your Honor, members of the council, it's essentially putting the projects back together.
Okay.
And amending the budget to make sure we can complete the project as necessary.
Right.
So if you have any questions, I can go through the council letter, or if you're comfortable with the council letter, I think you can.
I do actually have one question, and it actually might be more for Tim. Put him on that spot. And this is just because if I don't ask it, I'll forever be. So and I don't know if we can pull up, it's actually more as it relates to the resolution. So we're approving, basically, I'll try to summarize it. For the frontage road, there's an approval as it relates to the special assessment. Now it says it's the prepayments of the $55,000, but then when it's dealing with I think the access management project, we don't address the 19.8 special assessments.
Page 74, is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, it's sort of, I know it says 70, then go to the actual resolution.
Oh,
They're
So-
combined. Yep. The resolutions, there's a little bit of a combination going on.
Okay,
If you look at the table on page 2, there, we're combining the 19.8 and the 55 together on there. And on the resolution,
so that total is at almost 75.
right,
But then the resolution,
yep. Chris, do you have any thoughts on that? Our two staffs worked on it. I personally didn't work on this. But certainly we could take a look at that.
I just don't know, I just didn't know if that is supposed to be included somewhere. I didn't know if it was something, but my understanding is that those assessments, the 19, even though that's the county project, we still are handling those assessments.
We would be handling the assessments. What I'm not sure is in the budget amendment, if that 19,800 was already in the budget. Remember, we're only adding
Okay.
to the budget. So when we did a previous amendment, that 19,800 might have been
Already
in the
okay.
budget itself. And we were only adding the 55,000. I don't have the historical document in front of me.
Okay.
Because what we're doing is we're simply adding to the budget for these projects. But because this project has come up in the past,
We may
we've
have
had
already-
other amendments that we've had to take into account. So this was more like a net adjustment to the total cost between all three projects. the roadway project, and then the two for tonight. I would have to look into that, but let's say that the budget does not get properly amended. That's a revenue side. We could fix that in a cleanup resolution at the end of the year.
Okay.
What's more important tonight is that we have the proper expenditure resolution to create the authority for Chris's staff to move forward with the bid documents and authorize the expenditures.
Okay.
But I will take an additional look at that.
Okay.
Your Honor, members of the council, I also believe that Tim is correct. So the 19,800 was already included in the 2019 annual budget, and so we
Okay.
have sufficient funds. The 55,195 is essentially because we tied it together with the road rehabilitation project, and we overall collectively we're short on funds. That's why it shows the 55,195 only from the prepaid special assessments.
Okay. I just had to clarify, because if I didn't, it's gonna
Good
linger in
question.
the brain.
Good question. Yep. Okay, any further discussion? I think we're looking for a motion on this resolution.
Sure. I'll move to adopt Resolution 1971, a resolution authorizing the use of municipal state aid roadway construction funds and amending the street reconstruction, maintenance, and water and sewer utility budget for the county state, or I'll just say CSA H18 Bailey Road Access Management Project and 2019 roadway rehabilitation Bailey Frontage Road Project. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Okay, Kim, I'll take the roll.
Councilmember Date? Aye. Councilmember Morris?
Aye.
Councilmember Santini? Aye. Mayor Burt?
Aye, that resolution is adopted. Okay, item number 8. This is discussion on regarding $1,500,000 general obligation improvement bonds, Series 2019A. We're going to have a short presentation here by the city's financial advisors, which is Ellers, and I believe Jason Arswald. Can you come to the podium and just state your name?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Jason Arswold with Ellers. And as you mentioned, the item before you tonight is to consider awarding the sale of $1.5 million in general obligation bonds for financing a part of your 2019 road reconstruction project. So about a month ago, you saw our pre-sale report, which essentially outlined a proposed issue of bonds. And since that time, we've been working with your staff towards a competitive sale of that bond issue. And part of that process was we had this issue rated by Standard & Poor's, as we do annually. And again, happy to report that Standard & Poor's assigned, again, or upheld your AAA rating, which of course is the highest rating that a city can achieve. So that's great, and it means lower interest rates for you and your residents for your projects, which is a good thing. And in doing that, of course, they cited the strong economy here in Woodbury, but also the fact that you've all done a good job as a council and a staff managing your budgets and finances. And so those are all factors that led to and have led in the past to the city's AAA rating. So as I mentioned, we're working towards a competitive sale. So we actually put this out to the marketplace, take bids back in our office. We did that this morning at 10 o'clock. We received 3 bids. And the low bidder was Baird out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And they bid at an interest rate of 2.4479%. So it was a great result. And as part of that, we are also able to resize this issue. We were initially contemplating an issue size of about $1,725,000. We were able to reduce it for 2 reasons. One, we received a premium bid, just meaning that the underwriter or the purchaser of the bonds is paying more than the face value of the bonds in exchange for slightly higher interest rates on those bonds. So we evaluate all of those things together to get to that true interest cost. But also, your prepayments on your special assessments have come in more than anticipated. And so we were able to accommodate for that on here on the day of sale to reduce it again even further so that you're not issuing any more than you need to. So the new issue size now is $1.5 million, and then you're still generating enough to cover the expenses that were anticipated for your road projects. Again, a good thing, I think. So the purpose again tonight of the resolution would be to award the sale of those bonds. And I'm certainly happy to answer any more detailed questions you'd like about the bond sale itself or the rating.
Great. Any questions by anybody? It made sense to me. I had a nice discussion with Tim beforehand, so I got a little clarity on my part, so I'm good. We're going to address this in two separate motions for 8A1 and 8A2. So if there's no further discussion, I guess I will move to adopt Resolution 1972, awarding the sale of general obligation improvement bonds, Series 2019A, in the original aggregate principal amount of $1,500,000, fixing their form and specifications, directing their execution and delivery, and providing for their payment.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Kim, you want to do the roll?
Councilmember Morse?
Aye.
Councilmember Santini?
Aye.
Councilmember Date?
Aye.
Mayor Burt?
Aye. That resolution is adopted. And now we've got a second one here, to adopt a motion to authorize the finance director to enter into an agreement with Ellers for arbitrage calculations and the continuing disclosure requirement of the bonds.
I'll second.
Okay, motion is second. Any discussion? All right, Kim, would you take the roll?
Certainly. Councilmember Santini?
Aye.
Councilmember Date?
Aye.
Councilmember Morse?
Aye.
Mayor Burt?
Aye, that is approved. Okay, thank you. We will now, after that's been done, we will now address the consent agenda item, which was 6B. Is that right? No, 6H, the approval of request for tobacco sales license, and we'll move that now at this point in time. And Kim, do you have some comments or?
Yes, I have a short presentation.
Right?
Thank you, Mayor Burt and members of the council. Southgate Tobacco, Inc. has submitted an application for tobacco sales license for their new establishment to be located at 10150 Hudson Road, Suite 107. The principal owners of Southgate Tobacco, Inc. are Bhavadi Junati, I'm hoping I'm doing okay, I apologize, with 50% ownership, and Anand Barabavi with 50% ownership. As required by city code, a criminal background check as it pertains to tobacco licensing was conducted on both owners, and the following was found. In 2016, Stillwater Tobacco Shop, located in Stillwater, Minnesota, applied for a transfer tobacco license, which changed the Stillwater Tobacco Shop to Northgate, Inc., doing business as Still Tobacco 2. Mr. Junati is sole owner of Northgate, Inc. During the city's background check process, it was determined that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration performed tobacco compliance checks in 2016 and 2018, and Stillwater Tobacco Shops, Stillwater Tobacco 2, were issued warning letters for compliance failures. Additionally, in 2015, the store was cited administratively by Stillwater Police for compliance failure. Mr. Barawabi previously owned several other tobacco sales stores throughout the Twin Cities area, and there were no compliance issues at those locations. All necessary fees have been submitted by the applicant, and should council have questions, the applicant is present tonight. Staff received a letter from Max Erickson, owner of Scrubs Direct LLC, who is a business owner in close proximity of the proposed tobacco store, requesting that the City Council deny Southgate Tobacco, Inc.'s request for tobacco sales license. And Mr. Erickson is present should council have questions. The application materials, including the letter of objection, have been reviewed by the city attorney. The city attorney's opinion is that the warning letters and administrative citation as summarized above do not amount to adequate grounds to deny the license under city code. Staff therefore recommends council approve issuing a tobacco sales license to Southgate Tobacco, Inc. for their new establishment to be located at 10150 Hudson Road, Suite 107, Woodbury, Minnesota. And that's all I have for you.
Okay, thank you. And I do have green sheets on these, and we have both people present. Does somebody want to start first? You could step up to the podium, state your name and home address, please.
Your Honor, council members. My name is Baru Jadidi. I'm a local resident here, and I live on 10308 Foxburn Bay. I own the tobacco store, just like Kim said, and in Stillwater, I owned it for 5 years. I also own a couple of gas stations in St. Paul, and I had tobacco licenses there. I don't have any issues. I don't know what this gentleman's issue is. We had a couple of situations, but the problem is basically we have employees, and we have a culture where basically You train your employees and you make sure that they know the rules and the regulations. I have here pictures of what I have on the door. I have 3 posters on my door trying to deter teenagers from coming in, and they usually don't. But the FDA usually comes in, with somebody who looks 35 years old, and it happens. I mean, they understand that eventually something's going to happen. We have employees. Our employees are just people. So, and they allow us so many situations that could happen without having any consequences. So I don't have any issues with the FDA or with the city of Stillwater at all. As a matter of fact, when I took over the license from the previous owner, they were thrilled because they had all kind of issues with the previous owner. Other than that, like I said, I currently hold 4 licenses for tobacco. I don't have any issues, and I'm a local. I live in the city, and I'd love to do business here. That's all I have to say.
Great.
Thanks. Thank you for your time.
Can I just ask the question? Is
Sure.
this just standard tobacco?
It is.
Is it smokeless or is it vaping type
It's a
tobacco as
combination
well?
of the two. It's a tobacco store will have all that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Typically it's a tobacco store and a cigar store.
Okay, so yeah, so is it upscale
Right,
cigars
yeah.
and such?
Right, yeah.
Okay. I can't say I've frequented one. I'm not a smoker, so thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Any
you so
other-
much. If you have any questions, I'll be here. So.
Okay. And then, Mr. Erickson, would you like to step up to the podium and state your name and your home address as well?
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Thank you for listening to me tonight. My name is Max Erickson. I'm owner of Scrubs Direct. My home address is 284 Sherwood Forest in River Falls, Wisconsin. I presently have stores in Duluth, Minnesota, and here in Woodbury. We moved to Woodbury here about 2 years ago from Maplewood, just because we wanted to come to a little better city, a little cleaner city, and we were having a lot of issues with theft and whatnot. So we do love your city and love being here. Just signed a new 5-year lease in Woodbury Commons. After we signed a 5-year lease, we were told by our leasing company that there'd be a tobacco store right next to us. And I have no issues with tobacco stores. I just have issues with where they're placed. This Woodbury Commons Center is a family center. There's lots of family-owned businesses or family business, children's clothing stores, children's haircut place right next door to where the tobacco store is going to be. And most importantly, a child's swim school, Foss Swim School, is moving right next door within 222 feet. I've measured it to where the tobacco store is going to be. Most cities have ordinances on how close a tobacco store can be in conjunction with a school. A lot of youth are going to be coming in and out of that building. So that's my concern. My concern isn't with the tobacco store. If tobacco store is next to a liquor store, great. Tobacco stores next to a school, that's probably where I have the biggest issue. So that's kind of my concern, is that also the smell of tobacco. My customers, nurses, I've done a lot of research on clothing stores next to tobacco stores. And I'm just worried about that tobacco smell coming into my store, my customers buying clothing with that tobacco smell in it. They're trying to, they're putting insulation up when they're doing the build out right now to try to keep some of that odor coming in. But I doubt that that's going to keep all that odor. Our doors are literally 5 feet apart. And I'm worried about my customers coming into there and smelling that odor. So, in conjunction with that and the school there, the youth kids swim school, that's where I have the issue with the tobacco license in that center. Now, there's probably other centers in the city of Woodbury that would be better suited for that. So I'm not totally, saying that I want you to deny them throughout the city. Just in that center I feel is not a great spot. Thank you.
Thanks. Can I say one more thing?
Sure, come on back.
Well, first of all, this is a retail store. This is not a place. There's no smoking in a tobacco store at all.
I'm glad,
And
that was going to be my question.
That's
So
one
there's
thing.
no
The other
smoking.
thing is that
There's nothing's
there's-
burning in there.
Not at all.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, I'm not a smoker, and I have the same problem with just basically it's a tobacco store. It's not a smoking store. And there will be no smoking in there, so that helps you at all. And thank God he's not the owner of the shopping center. I don't have any issues. Where I'm at right now, I have a same thing. I have a hair salon next to me. I don't have any issues with that. There'll be no display outside at all, so
Okay,
thank you very much.
thank you.
And I guess the question I would have is there a smell of tobacco? Can you smell tobacco?
Okay. Comments, questions from council members?
Sure. I'll go ahead and start since I pulled this item. Mostly I wanted to pull this item for discussion because Mr. Erickson had submitted information ahead of time, so I wanted to be able to give our residents a chance to respond and for us to discuss it. I really empathize with you. My children go to Foss, so I guess I have a little bit of a personal connection to it, but Foss is not the same as a traditional school in that it rents space from that facility. It's not a permanent structure, so even though I'm sure they have a long-term lease, it's not necessarily there forever. So just thinking about kind of balancing, certain conflicted uses like that or potential conflicted uses with the fact that certain stores have a right to locate where they can within our ordinance codes. And so even though I'm also not a smoker, don't love the idea of my kids being close to that when I'm taking them swimming, I also think it's a learning opportunity for them. So it's certainly discussions that we'll have because I'm sure they'll have questions about what smoking is. And so I guess what I'm saying is I empathize and I'm glad that you brought it up, but I don't think our ordinances allow us to restrict its location.
Well, I do understand and I apologize for interrupting, I do understand where you're coming from. Most cities have implemented new ordinances because the tobacco stores are popping up everywhere. Because the government, the federal government, everything has minimized the sale of menthol so that has really, so if you look at what a lot of other cities are doing, they are implementing so many tobacco stores and then also coming up with the swim school. I talked to the COO of the swim school. He was not happy about the tobacco store as well, although he has a relationship with the leasing company and was in fear of affecting that relationship. So therefore, he did not want to be here tonight because of that. So I talked to all the business owners there. I didn't find a business owner that wanted the tobacco store there that thought it was like a great thing for the center. So that was my concern. I guess most cities are adopting moratoriums on at least doing the investigation before they grant the license to make sure that it's within what other cities are doing and what other cities across the United States are doing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Erickson, for your comments. Kim, I'll just ask, can you just clarify what our ordinance is? And do we have an ordinance regarding schools? Is there a distance that exists?
Within the tobacco sales license city code, there is not a restriction relative to location
There is
of
not.
schools. There is
Okay.
not.
So based on this request, we are following all ordinances as they currently exist. Okay,
Yes,
so
Mayor. Yes,
my
ma'am.
understanding is I'll just share my opinion that we don't really have the ability to prevent this because our ordinance allows it, and staff has recommended that we do so. The point being well taken, that might be an opportunity in the future for us to have a workshop and discuss some changes to that, but I think right now, based on what we have to follow the law that's written for our city. I'm done. Do you want to say something,
But
Steve?
I want to go a different route
Okay.
because by ordinance is an allowable use for the zoning that is in, we're following that, but I'm going to go down a different path. If the applicant can come back up, I've got some questions for you, if you could. Let me just preface and on the record, so also tobacco, I'm a retailer by trade, 23 years into it with age-restricted products, tobacco, alcohol, other convenience stores particularly. So unfortunately for you, I'm very well versed. Okay, on behalf of my employer, I work with MGA, Minnesota Grocers Association, Minnesota Retailers Association, and NATO, which I'm assuming you're a member of NATO, the North American Tobacco Outlets Association. Right. I talk to cities and counties, in fact, just last week with Hennepin County. So I'm very well versed with the city of Minneapolis, their moratoriums, the studies that have been done and have not been done and weren't done correctly. But I got a couple of questions for you for a couple of different, based on the background. Will you employ minors as part of your business?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so and let me just preface, I am asking some business questions around making sure that compliance with our ordinances, they sit for compliance purposes. So I'm asking you business questions around that, just to preface that, okay? So you will not employ minors as part of your business practice?
Absolutely not, no.
Okay. Within and you had said in your statement earlier that you've got some training, or you've got employees. I also have employees, so I've got 1,000 of them.
Right.
And you can only train them so far. You can lead them to water. Help me understand what your training program is.
Well, basically, they go through 2 weeks of training where they actually have to shadow somebody to make sure that what's going on as far as checking the ID and everything else. Checking the ID, making sure that they know how to spot a fake ID also. They also have to check and see before somebody comes in if there's a straw purchase, if somebody's coming in with a minor outside. You know, that's the kind of thing that they have to follow up, and you know, just basically a human thing. And just so you know, in those 2 incidences that you know that I had issues with the employees, one of them is a master's degree student. And the second one is she just graduated and she's a medical assistant here in a clinic in Woodbury. So they're not minors, but they're human. Things happen, you know. And in both incidences, they actually asked that for the ID. They looked at the ID, and they just, for some reason, they just didn't realize that this person is underage. So there's nothing you can do about that.
So that then leads me to my next question, which you're already there. Do you employ any technology in your business that prevents the employee having to do math in their head? So do you have any point of sale technology or any technology that you employ in your business that helps them make that determination?
We have tried that once, but they actually, in that case, they rely on it too much and they don't check the picture ID. So somebody would come in with their brother's or their sister's ID, and they just swipe it and they're done.
So you don't?
We don't, no.
Okay.
I just found out, we did it for almost a year, and we found out that the employees would actually count on it and not actually check the ID physically.
Okay. What, if you have an employee that's there, do you have any, other than the new employee training, do you have any kind of recertification or retraining or anything to come back to it once they're employed with you?
Well, unfortunately, there's no school that they can go to. We just have to basically keep reminding them every day.
I'm asking about your business policies. I know that there's no national school that they can go to, and the city doesn't offer that currently. I know other cities do, but we don't.
Right.
Do you have any kind of business practices or policies that say, hey, you've been here for 6 months, I'm going to retrain you on techniques of tobacco management?
We do, yeah.
What are they?
Well, basically, I would physically be in there with them for a day and just make sure that they are doing everything right.
Okay.
There's really not much you can do about that, other than that. Now, the city.
Well, I'm going to stop you there because I'm a retailer,
Right.
and there is something that you can do as a business owner, and that, to me, it's troubling, and this is kind of back where I come back to the city code, and we've got compliance checks. My understanding is you're aware of what those ordinances are and what our local and state laws are, but as an employer, you have an obligation. And as a city, we have an obligation by giving you the permit to sell this product that you're going to do so responsibly.
Right.
So you have the responsibility to make sure that those policies are enforced, and that's the culture that you run in your business. I can't tell you how to do that. It's not my job as a part of the city. My job, outside in the hallway, I'll tell you as a fellow retailer, I need you to do better.
Right.
Because it just,
Right.
okay. That's all I have for you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question for the city attorney. Was the determination on the FDA, help me understand why the previous failures, and I think I know why, but the previous failures that were done as part of the background check were not included in the determination not to issue a license? Is it because the FDA is not the licensing agency? So in our ordinance, we can deny a tobacco permit for previous failures in and outside of our municipality. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, it's a consideration, and it's a factor for consideration. And what staff has looked at and what the city attorney's office, my office, has looked at is every other factor is met. And typically, when you look at an enforcement action like this, you're looking at significant type of failures when you will walk in and either, as a council, revoke or not issue. I don't see this rising to that level.
Help me define significant then.
Multiple violations, repeated violations, consistent violations. When you look at both, and where you see more of this invoked is in the liquor standard, where there's higher elements that you have to apply there. But using that and using the analogies that the courts have looked at in those type of enforcement situations, it's basically willful and wanton type of conduct. It's not mistakes, where typically you would do that. Listening to what the applicant has said, looking what's here, it looks like these are more mistakes. That's the judgment that's there. Certainly, this is something we could talk further with the police department about, because that's typically where you would say, what do you look at when you go to a prosecution type stand? That's really what this is when you go into a revocation situation or a non-issuance. Just my experience in 25 years, I don't think this is there.
Okay, thank you. I'll have some other comments, but I don't have any other questions.
But you do have other
I
comments?
do have other comments, but I.
Does someone else have
wanna
other
open up
questions? Or comments?
I have a question comment, which is that, based on our ordinance and the information that I've heard, I don't think that denying this permit application is warranted, but I do think and I would like to evaluate our tobacco ordinance. So if we wanted to do that in a workshop, is that something where we would make a motion tonight to add that to a workshop? Or do we just express that we should evaluate that ordinance sooner rather than later, and that's enough?
Well, first we'd want to make sure there's concurrence of the council that you'd want to do that. There's a majority that wants to do that. I don't think a motion is necessary, but we can, obviously it would take staff time to do that. And as you're aware, the council workshop schedule is scheduled all the way till January. So we kind of want to know realistically what your expectations are as timing of when you would want to do that. But that would be the procedure to go through if you felt, again, the concurrence of the council. If you feel that that's something we want to review, then going through the workshop process would be how to do it.
Well, what part would you like to review?
I think it's a good idea for us to evaluate all of our ordinances on a relatively regular basis, and especially ordinances that come up like this where we have resident comments and questions. And I think evaluating that location within a permanent school is something that we should think about.
I would just advise, just a precaution of, we do have 4 other permitted businesses that we have approved licenses for. So it's not just this one establishment. Obviously, it would affect all of them.
Right. Another reason why I don't think it's warranted to deny this application, because we have several other tobacco locations that are in similar type strip malls. And Foss is not a permanent school location. But that is something I just think we should evaluate, whether maybe no changes are needed, but I think it's good to evaluate it.
But what is defined as a permanent location? They signed a 10-year lease, so I'm wondering, so they're planning on staying there.
Right.
So I guess that's my confusion, is you keep saying it's not a school, and I'll take pictures and send you all the kids that are gonna be entering there, because there's a lot of them.
I know, I send my kids there. Well, that could be part of the ordinance discussion, is what is defined as a school.
Yeah. Steve, did you have further questions or comments? I forget now what it was.
I would agree with Councilmember Date that we should take a look at it in terms of that. So one of the things though that I do want to come back to, and I appreciate City Attorney coming through, but as I keep looking at number 3 within our ordinance. And again, I'm plagued because I live this every day, and I know that unfortunately I'm responsible for 1,000 employees that I can lead them to water, but I can't make them drink, and I understand that's likely the situation here. But the retailer also has an obligation. I have an obligation for my employees to be responsible for their following of the ordinances. And when I see, particularly because it's the FDA and I know how they do it and what they do on top of what the city does. Those are all actual minors that walked into this place of business, where it's an age-restricted business. You have to be 18 to walk through the door. They sent minors in. This isn't somebody posing, and I do third-party checks where I send a 35-year-old in because our policy is 40 years old, and that they fail our sting if they didn't card that person and they're 35. But these are all actual minors that did this. That we sold to. So I actually have not necessarily, I'm understanding what the comments are on the location and where we're at. I actually just don't believe that we're meeting the level for me of a responsible retailer as it's laid out in our ordinance, that we're going to do what we can, and that the retailer, I'm not convinced that the retailer's got policies, procedures, and or the understanding of what that means to our community. And putting the tobacco in the hands of minors. This is near and dear to my heart, and it's tough for me to say that. But.
So with, I don't know if this is the exact language, but under number 3, so if I'm understanding this, it's also within the preceding 12 months. So if you look at then the report, technically one of those compliance checks was in 2016, so in some sense you wipe that off.
Yep.
And so now are we putting the threshold at the...
There was also one in 2018.
Correct, and so I'm saying, so a one-time infraction, are we in denying, establishments? And I'm not, but I think that this, again, I think this would be all those types of conversations we would need to have at a workshop is, do we change our ordinance as it relates to the timeline,
Scope.
what that looks like? I don't know because I think, we're also focusing right now on just the standalone establishments, but we also have to remember all of the gas stations that are out there that we issue licenses to. And again, believe me, but it's just, and so I guess I don't know how many violations we receive, a minor, I wouldn't call them a minor infraction, throughout all of our establishments in Woodbury as it relates to our tobacco licenses. And I just pose that also as it relates to, if this becomes a workshop item, if we start to limit, we've got to also think about, we have those other 4 establishments, but we are then having to think about as it relates to gas stations in conjunction to, I'm just thinking truly at Valley Creek and Radio. You've got the daycare center right there, and you've got the gas station right there that I presume has a tobacco license, so I know, I think we can just say as personal preferences, it's not ideal in terms of just the habit, but I think that becomes a public situation of, of the market. We need to educate our children better to not smoke and hope that current smoke, that it's truthfully the market will change the business model. With all due respect, I mean, I'm happy that you are a business owner in our community, that you're a resident here. It's not that I want to discourage your business per se, but it's a.
And I'll continue that to say that all the studies and the statistics are telling us that it's not they're not buying it from the establishment, they're getting it socially. So even there's a conversation about, well, it's not the establishments, and I get that and I argue that all the time. It's to come back to what you were saying in 2016, that's got to be erased because our ordinance says within 12 months. And I get it. To me, it's a pattern. So I'm seeing a 2016, a 2015, 2016, 2018. That to me leads a pattern. So whether or not our ordinance says 12 months, and the FDA is not the licensing agency, and I get that and understand that, and whether it's wanton disregard or it's just bad business, not holding employees accountable.
And that leads into your discussion, if you want to have that as a council. You certainly can limit that. You certainly can require training, and there are other communities that do that. So those are things to look at that get to that. Unfortunately, I stand by what we have. And what staff
I would expect you to. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the discussion's all good, and it is probably worthy of a discussion at a workshop to even decide if we want to put this on the agenda or what have you. But I think right now what we have in front of us is this particular issue, 6H, and the request for approval. So is there any further discussion based on that? Because this is the item before us right now. Hearing none, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the request for the tobacco sales license, Southgate Tobacco Incorporated, 150 Hudson Road, Suite 107. Again, and my reason for doing that is it follows our current ordinance, and I don't see how we can deny it. So that's my motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion at this point now? Okay, Kim, can you do the roll?
Certainly. Councilmember Santini.
Aye.
Councilmember Date.
Aye.
Councilmember Morris.
Nay.
Mayor Burt.
Aye. So with the majority, that resolution passes, or the approval for request of that license passes. I too, Mr. Erickson, appreciate your concern, and I know a lot of, it's challenging being near a business that might feel like it interferes with you, and, yeah, right, yeah.
Mom died from enlarged heart and emphysema from smoking since she was 15 years old. It's just sad that the cities don't, the gas stations that are 16% of their sales, we're talking about a store that's 100% of their sales are.
Right, right.
And with that pattern, I disagree with the city attorney where they don't see that. There's no violation from their great business. I mean, never had any of that. I just look at where it's located in that center, and I just don't feel it's.
Yeah, we appreciate that. I think we're going to end that discussion now. It's been passed. It's an ordinance. It's something that we will consider going forward. I appreciate very much your comments. Thank you both for being here tonight. All right. Next on our agenda, we have staff reports. Transportation report. Chris?
Your Honor, members of the council, typically we don't have a transportation report until the second meeting in May, but I'm sure a lot of folks in our community are noticing that construction activities are starting to begin. So I want to give just a brief update. 2019 roadway rehabilitation project area, the first phase has started on Upper Afton Road, so you'll see some closures. You also see concrete sawing, erosion control, minor storm sewer work starting in other areas of the city. You might have seen Excel Energy out on Valley Creek Road, starting to finalize the work that they started last year for their gas main replacements. And of course, you're probably noticing some of the slowdowns on 494, near 94, and near the Wakota Bridge down in South St. Paul and Newport. So a more detailed report will be available on May 22nd, and I'll be there to present that. For the most up-to-date information, though, we encourage residents to use the city's website under your government, departments, engineering, and current and future projects. You can sign up for in-touch email notification service or call the engineering department at 651-714-3593.
Great. Thank you. We do know it is construction season, and there's a lot to be done in a short period of time, so we all need a little patience getting through it, some extra planning, so thank you. And our city administrator's report, tonight we have Angela here to report.
Yep, just a few updates. The next meeting of council will be the council workshop meeting of May 15th, and there's only one agenda item planned for that, as to review the capital improvement plan. And then for preliminary public hearings for the regular council meeting on May 22nd, we have two items currently. Kowalski's Woodbury Market for an off-sale liquor license, and the Cornerstone Medical Office Building expansion, amended planned unit development, and an amended conditional use permit. And no other neighborhood meetings or other special meetings are planned at this time.
Can I ask a question about the Kowalski's?
Yeah.
Is that within the grocery store?
Yes, it is.
How are we getting around state law? Because it's prohibited. Convenience stores and grocery stores are prohibited.
It'll have to be a separate
It's a
entrance.
separate entrance.
Okay, so they're going to
Yeah.
do a build out.
So-
Oh, okay, okay.
I wasn't sure if you were, there is a law related off sale, correct?
Correct.
But it is, I'll have a separate entrance.
Gotcha.
And a separate license.
Their wine. They already have.
So they have a off-sale liquor store where they sell wine.
Yep.
And they will be selling off-sale 3-2 in their grocery store, which will require a separate entrance, which is their regular grocery store. I wanted the clarity on the off-sale, because there is that in statute.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. We are adjourned.